Hello, folks. John Najarian here, talking about covered calls. And one of the questions that I always get asked is, why are covered calls such an important strategy to you, John? And my answer is that if you had an apartment, wouldn't you want to collect rent every month? Well, with covered rights, that's exactly what you're doing. Let me use an example of Apple. Now, presently, Apple's approximately $148 a share. So 1,000 shares of Apple would be $148,000. Now, you'd want to collect rent, in other words, call premium, by selling an upside call, perhaps the 155 calls, against that 148 value stock. Now, when you do that, every month that money just rolls in, whether you're doing it weekly or whether you're doing it monthly or even quarterly. That money just rolls in as time decay works in your favor instead of against you. That's one of the things that's so powerful about the covered right strategy. So if this sounds like something that appeals to you the way it appeals to me, you've got to sign up for the Covered Call Masterclass. It's something that will take you through step by step so that you'll be comfortable and confident enough to do it on a weekly or monthly basis, just like I do.
Good morning on this Thursday morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. And on this Thursday morning, if we go back to yesterday just for a moment, we take a look at what was really going on yesterday, a little bit of that divergence that we have seen in the past. As a matter of fact, you look over at the Dow, volatility, yes, vol is there, but the Dow suddenly had this amazing sell-off to the downside, down, and closed on the lows of the session. It really got hammered pretty decent. Not monstrously, but 127 points to the downside and closing on the lows. That's never a good thing. Today's a little bit different. But then on the NASDAQ side of things, absolutely the opposite. The NASDAQ had some bouncing around early on, then started to just move to the upside, moved up 100 and some odd points, closed up 102 points. That was about 35 points off of the highs. Matter of fact, in the last 30 minutes or so, it lost maybe 30 or 40 points from those highs of the day, but still a triple-digit move for the NASDAQ, a very nice move on the day. Volatility, we talked about this, and we've been talking about this, volatility, and how difficult it's been to sustain anything over 20. Well, yesterday, started the day near those highs in the 19s, and again, just started to pull back and ease back just ever so slightly, and finished the day right around a little bit less than 18 and a half or there. And then you look at volumes. Volumes did start to get right back into things. And we've been talking about this earnings week, but we've had a little bit lighter volumes when you look back to Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, it started to pick up just a little bit better. 37.6 million contracts trading on Wednesday. When you look at Apple, 2.2 million of that. AMD, 1.6 million. Yes, we're going to get to that in just a minute. Pfizer, 1.7 million contracts. Then take a look over at Tesla. So that over 1 million contracts. So a nice broad, once again, Apple, of course, post-earnings, a lot of activity there. So we had energy moving to the upside, have oil holding not only over 72, but near 72.50 and that sort of a range. Energy, it was the XOP type names. I'm looking at Marathon, I'm looking at Devon, I'm looking at Apache, Occidental, all of those moving nicely to the upside. You see energy on about a 1% move to the upside yesterday. We had that communication sector actually moving pretty nicely yesterday as well. Staples, not so much. Semiconductors, a really, really nice day. We talked about AMD and some of the option paper that we had seen in there. AMD, Xilinx, NXPI, those names all having a nice push to the upside with the semiconductor index, the SMH, up just under about 2% yesterday. So a pretty decent day. The Chinese names, we mentioned that yesterday going into yesterday, but the Chinese names held on pretty nicely. A lot of option paper as well. And those Chinese names moving to the upside. It was everything from PDD, you look at NetEase, you look at JD, you look at Trip.com, all of those names participating yesterday. Boeing was a standout, no doubt. Talk about the industrial space and the Dow itself. You look at Boeing up 4% on some powerful performance, a lot of commentary from the CEO there, heard from the CFO as well, obviously earnings. And they talked about the 737 and some of the orders that are coming in, all of that giving Boeing a little bit of a nice lift yesterday. Microsoft Yep. What else can you say? All-time highs, hit it again yesterday. Did ease back off of that, but still very, very powerful move to the upside for Microsoft once again. So last night we had PayPal, we had Facebook, we had Ford, we had Qualcomm. Overall, many of the numbers that were put up, very impressive. Some of the reactions a little bit different. We talked about PayPal last night on Fast Money. I talked about where it's trading from a valuation perspective and the competition that they're having from eBay. So the combination of those two things, when you look at a stock, this is a name that I was in for a long period of time. It got to the point where it felt like it was getting a little bit rich. It's gotten even richer. But you look at where that PE is right now, the price to earnings, we're talking about 60 plus right now for PayPal. So any kind of a stumble would be the reason why we'd see a pullback. Doesn't mean the company's not doing great. They're growing. Are they growing fast enough? That's maybe in question for me. But it's an unbelievable quarter once again. Very powerful, very strong. A lot of the Venmo paper as well. All of that put together in terms of PayPal. But you know, it's also, it's like Facebook. There are levels that you can reach, but then will you be able to reach those going out? The forecast for Facebook was the primary reason we were seeing the pullback. Let's always remember this too. And I mentioned this last night about Facebook. Facebook was a $350 stock all the way back to last Thursday, and then had this big run to the 377 yesterday, and then finished a little bit lower off of that new high that they set yesterday, and then pushed down even lower after the earnings. But let's also factor in all of the run that's been happening in a very short period of time. Some of that maybe even off of the back of Snap and Twitter and some of the social media that we've been talking about as well. So crude today up even higher, pushing closer and closer to 73. The energy space, again, one of the leadership areas of the marketplace. We had energy, industrials, materials, financials, technology, everybody participating in a pretty nice solid move to the upside. We have the Dow up about 150 points since the opening, got up over 200 points, eased back, then came back again. Last I looked, Dow was up about 150 points, and NASDAQ steadily building throughout the session so far, first hour of the session, and it was up about 55 points. We tell you what, the standouts, Ford up 6%. We mentioned that as last night, part of the earnings. Ford, you look at the free cash flow, you look at all the various areas in which Ford is working. One of the issues that they do face, of course, which was brought up though, is the fact that, and they think they might be able to get over the hump of this, but still very, very difficult. We talk about chips, we talk about the semiconductors. One of the issues is there's still a global, they're looking globally, and it's still very, very slow to be able to get all the chips in the vehicles. That's one thing that is holding things back. Volatility index down about 5% today, trading closer to 17.5 and actually moving even a little bit lower than that. So let's jump into some unusual options activity. Semiconductors just rocking today. So let's jump into some unusual option activity. Maybe one of them is in the semiconductor space. SMH having another good day. So GLD. Now, this is the gold ETF. We had a monstrous trade coming into there. The one issue that I have is this. I oftentimes would rather be in individual names than in the ETF. Well, what do you know? One of those individual names, GOLD, Barrick Gold, that hit as well. So despite the fact that GLD hit with some very large paper, I like to see this GOLD trading around 2180. We had a buyer of 6,800. This is also unusual, going all the way out to November. So buying some upside, the 22s, just barely upside, almost at the money calls, we could call them, for $1.40. As I mentioned, 6,800 of those. Now, back to the semiconductors. So yesterday, one of the things we talked about on the halftime report was the huge option buying that we saw in AMD gave me an opportunity to jump into AMD. We talked about this, July 93 calls. Monstrous paper yesterday buying those calls. Stock was just a little over 90 at the time. Well, things have changed a little bit. Today, stock was trading a little over 100, 100.5. And we had a monstrous buyer, again, AMD, 34,000 of the July 30 strike. Those expire tomorrow. Let's remember that. I just had an option that we were talking about for unusual and GOLD out to November. Looking at these, the AMDs, they expire tomorrow. So you got today and tomorrow for this to work. It's already starting to work a little bit. They're just out of the money. The 101 strike calls, 27 cents up to about $1.30. 34,000 of those were purchased earlier in the session. Stock was trading just about 100.5 at the time of that trade. We'll see how the rest of the day plays out. We'll see how tomorrow plays out. But a breakout up above 100 for AMD Boy, I'll tell you what, one of the debates I'll always have with anybody we want when we're talking about this on the show, if you want short term and you get moves, would you rather have a 4% in the stock move, which is a great move, or a 40 or 50 or 60 or 70% or 100% move in the options? I think we all know the answer to that. Folks, if you don't understand the options world, the derivatives world, I'll tell you, Bill Johnson and I did a program last night. It was fantastic. Bill does an unbelievable job. He does a great job with the educational side of it, along with the rest of the team here at Market Rebellion. Really, really proud of those guys and what they're able to accomplish and what they can do on the educational front. If you do not know options well, one of the things we're coming out from this IPO today that we're getting from, what is it? Oh, Robinhood. Yeah, from the Robinhood, let me tell you, one of the things that I came away from on that was he talked about options. He talked about their platform. He talked about a lot of different things, the CEO of the company. So really interesting. There's obviously growth. We all understand that, but you want to have the knowledge. You got to have the knowledge. And if you need the knowledge, we have some great people here who can show you a lot more about the options world. Have a great day at trading.